Really quick, I wanted to get into the big news, which is, Sam Bankman-Fried, and now he's officially under arrest. And I know that you've been following this a ton, Daniel, but everyone was saying, why isn't this guy arrested? Why isn't this guy arrested? Well, based on what I'm reading now, I understand why it took a little longer. I know there's theories out there of the timing of this. He was going to get investigated by...
Well, he's going to testify.
He was going to testify, right? He was going to testify in front of, the Republican committee, not the Financial Service Committee, which is run by the House Democrats. And, they're pushing this agenda like, he donated money to both. He donated money to both parties. 92% of his money personally went to Democrats, right? And then they're bringing up the other guy who founded the company who's not really in trouble and a while ago and say, well, he was more, again, they're trying to split it out, but it's just amazing how they were really going to put his feet to the fire. And before he was able to do that in one day, they arrest the guy, right? So, again, you could think about what it is or what it isn't, but the bottom line is they found a lot now. Now they found the smoking guns.
Do you think there's any coincidences in Washington, D.C., Frank?
No, there's no coincidences.
I don't think so either.
There's no coincidence, absolutely.
I was one of the guys that was very upset and wondering why he hadn't been arrested, and I don't want to break the rule of law here just because it favors me in this one argument. However, I could say John J. Ray III, man, it's tough. I think I messed that up yesterday a few times. Anyway, the current FTX CEO, he's still an expert in bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff, but he's made a huge splash in his name through walking through the Enron bankruptcy. It hasn't seemed, there's nothing new about the commingling of funds here. So my selfishness, Frank, is it took over a month to get this guy arrested. It could have taken 12 hours and he could have been sitting there for longer. But let's just enjoy the small victory as we have it. Frank, a couple of quotes that caught my eye yesterday as I, for everybody else, is painstaking. Instead of putting everyone else through a painstaking endeavor, I was listening to some of this and it was entertaining as can be. You have both sides of the aisle kind of touting themselves and they all get 5 minutes in these kind of hearings. So they're recognized for 5 minutes. They kind of use the first minute-ish to talk about how right they've been in the past or how they're fighting for the common people. And then they get into some back and forth with the people across the aisle. Because at this time, Frank, you can't talk. It's like you're muted. So I can say, Frank, I don't hear you hooping and hollering today as we're having this congressional hearing like you have in the past. That's always kind of funny. They were half the congressional hearing was trying to paint crypto as, hey, this is a fraud in total, and if we just regulate it, this wouldn't happen. And I thought John Ray did an excellent job walking the line and simply saying, listen, this is just fraud. Forget, the FTX CEO, the bankruptcy guy. He said, he said it's just old-fashioned embezzlement. And what he did was he said, listen, this isn't crypto's fault. And my point is, while everybody's grandstanding and talking about regulations and things, I know there have been changes to regulatory filings and regulations since Bernie Madoff. But how do you not have one of the biggest financial frauds on Wall Street and Bernie Madoff right under the noses of everybody in the SEC, and then yet you grandstand up there and talk about how regulation could have solved this one? That just shows you there's no there's just so much hypocrisy up there, it's not even funny. But when you look at what he said, it's just old-fashioned stealing. And I thought this was just a boom for crypto, and I think, Sam Bankman-Fried getting arrested, and B, some of that testimony is why Bitcoin remains between 17 and 18,000.
Yeah, I don't know what monthly. I mean, 18,000.
I'm kind of scratching my head because it makes sense, and then we don't need to get into the allegations against Binance. Not that I'm trying to back them. I'm just saying there's still the ripple effects of the FTX fallout. However, it's getting more clear, I think, to everybody that's going, oh, wait a minute, this guy was just lying and cheating and stealing. Well, that's exactly what you could do under no regulatory environment is going to make that. Frank, if you make me give you a piece of paper that says this, this, and this, if I'm an outright fraud, what's keeping me from giving you that same piece of paper?
Yeah.
So it's great to see. Now, he's still allegedly a fraudster. So we'll see if he's convicted or anything. However, my point is that once word gets out that there's actually repercussions for bad behavior, that is only a positive for the space and the price of crypto, i.e. Bitcoin, going forward.
No, absolutely. And I think the big deal here is with the SEC, and they're always slow to kind of move their feet, but they wanted the smoking gun, and they got it. They basically got it. I mean, if you're looking for the report of what they I went through this, and I have good people who are very smart with this industry and said, hey, did you see this part and this part and this part? But there's certain things here. They use the customer funds to make undisclosed venture investments, lavish real estate purchases, and large political donations. Okay. There's no meaningful distinction between FTX customer funds and Alameda's own funds, meaning that the people who are putting money into FTX had no idea that their funds are being used. That's illegal, right?
That's outright fraud. Yeah.
Right. So
Theft.
now they have more than 8 billion FTX customers' assets, and FTX deposit these into Alameda controlled bank accounts. So they would initially move to a different account, right? So now you have Sam Bankman-Fried actually knowing about this and trying to hide it. How? Because FTX, they were trying to separate Alameda's portion of liability, right? And they create a new account in an account called fiat@ftx.com. But what happens is this account, when you put money, it generates automatic interest, right? So it generates that interest automatically. And again, we're talking about $8 billion. So they, Sam Bankman-Fried is like, no. We can't bring attention to this. We don't want to have them generating interest. So they actually move that account to someplace else, right? So now you have a guy that's trying to conceal the losses in Alameda, right? So that's where he didn't say anything about that in the interview. He was like, I don't know what happened. Now there's a smoking gun. He's dead. He's done, right? But this is old-fashioned fraud. Yeah, you could say it's not just about crypto, but it makes it a little bit easier to do in crypto because the SEC has been, dragging its feet. And to be fair, it didn't matter with this. This is an international company. They have a U.S. division, but this is an international company that you really don't know what the hell is going on. You really need to see those numbers as international crypto companies that show their numbers that are fine. I don't talk about those. And it makes sense from tax purposes, especially if you're doing a lot of business overseas. That's why all of our shippers we talk about, there's no major shippers that have businesses in the U.S. because they deal in so many other countries and shipping around the world. They're going to go in the best jurisdiction that for tax purposes. It makes sense. But regulation needs to come down in this industry, and I think people are seeing that because I've said it a million times. This is where the innovation is coming from. Blockchain is for real. The metaverse is unbelievable, where you're going to see proof of your ownership that's on the blockchain through NFTs. You get to create, you get to own your own content. The internet's no longer owned by 4 or 5 different companies. They're not going to be collecting their data anymore, but it allows you to build whatever you want, be whatever you want, do whatever you want. And that's really, really appealing. It might not be appealing to people listening to this if you're 55, 60, but when you are 40 years old, millennial, and you grew up 100% of digital age, I mean, everybody below 40 is 100% grown up in digital age. They grew up social media, going all over these accounts. I mean, they're trying to ban TikTok now, whatever, but it's just amazing to see that this is going to provide a much better experience on your mobile phone. And you're going to have the chance to own all of your content, all of anything. I mean, if you get kicked off social media, you don't own anything. If you happen to pass away, get hit by a car, they erase everything. You don't even, all your tweets you ever said, everything gone. Like they own everything that you put on their platforms. And I still think today people don't understand that, until you get, you're running your whole business and you say like, hey, I think Donald Trump was right on this. And boom, you get suppressed and nobody ever hears from you again. And you're like, holy shit, I just had 300,000 subscribers I used to talk to on YouTube and now I got banned. Now you understand, like they own it and they control it and they can have any agenda they want. They could do whatever they want. They could say whatever they want. These are private companies and public companies, whatever, but they're companies, right? So it has nothing to do with free speech. You don't have free speech on these platforms. I know what Elon Musk is trying to do with Twitter, but if you think you have free speech all the time, go up and say, I hate women. They should get paid less than anything at your job. See how fast you get fired. You don't have free speech at your job. And when you're going on these platforms, they could do whatever they want. And again, but for them to suppress and have agenda and stuff like that, and that's a big media outlet, it's different. But when I see the metaverse, when I see DAO, which is not just your board of directors, it's a whole community that has say in it and voting rights and stuff like that. Not the voting rights that you think you have because you really don't have them. I mean, the way they set up CEOs pretty much, and the insiders have the most rights and stuff. Your vote really doesn't matter, to be honest with you, when it comes to publicly traded companies. Anyway, most of them. But my point is, this is where the innovation is coming from. And now this is forcing regulation, and you're seeing a bid in the market because, really quick here, if you're looking at Binance, what happens is people are worried that Binance is going to be next. And even though they're in good shape, what do? You're allowed to take all your assets off and you put them in cold storage. It's a little thing that you have. You put in like 16 codes or something, words or whatever. I have one here. You put all your assets offline. This way no one can ever touch them and you own them. So they're like, I'm not going to leave my assets here. So they were moving billions of assets off the platform. And now they kind of stemmed that. It looks like most of that was done. It doesn't mean people are selling Bitcoin. If you're removing those assets and put them on cold storage, it probably means you're going to hold Bitcoin for a very, very long time because you have to take it and put it into another account, and then you could trade and sell. Those people are doing it are long-term holders. They're not selling Bitcoin anytime soon. They're not selling Ethereum. Even with NFTs and smart contracts, and Ethereum is definitely the leader and continue to be the leader forever in that industry. This is where the innovation is coming from, and you're seeing a bit in crypto, which could be surprising to a lot, but It is interesting. I think long term, this is very, very good news, but they got the smoking gun and this guy's dead. They're going to make a big example out of him. They don't even need to make an example out of him, but he's done. I mean, with some of this stuff showing that he transferred assets, that he was trying to hide this and conceal it. I mean, if this turns out to be true, then you're done. And it looks like it is because they've done a lot of work on this to go over every single email, everything, tweet, everything that he's doing. And they got him. They definitely got him.